For over half a century, one name has ruled the skies: the Boeing 747, the Queen of the Skies. A machine so majestic, it didn't just carry passengers, it carried dreams, but just when the world thought her reign had ended, something unexpected happened. And now, aviation fans everywhere are asking, is the Queen making a comeback? Today, we're diving into the shocking twist behind one of aviation's greatest legends, because the story of the 747 is far from over. February 2023, rain fell over Everett, Washington. Hundreds of engineers, pilots, and aviation enthusiasts gathered as the final Boeing 747, the last of its kind, rolled out of the factory. It was a bittersweet moment, the end of a 54-year production run, the end of an era. As the jet's engines roared to life for its delivery flight, people watched with quiet awe. They weren't just watching a plane take off. They were watching history lift into the clouds one last time, or so everyone thought, because behind the scenes, the Queen wasn't ready to disappear, a legacy too big to die to understand why the world can't let go of this aircraft. We have to go back to where it all began. In the late 1960s, airports were overcrowded. Jetliners like the 707 and DC-8 couldn't keep up with the surge in global travel. Airlines needed something bigger, much bigger. So Boeing took on a mission that seemed impossible. Build an aircraft that could carry twice as many passengers, fly farther, and cost less per seat than anything before. The Boeing 747, a giant unlike anything the world had ever seen. When it first took flight on February 9, 1969, it wasn't just an engineering triumph. It was a symbol of progress, of possibility, of humanity's obsession with going further. That iconic hump housing the upper deck and cockpit wasn't just a design quirk, it was revolutionary. It made the plane instantly recognizable, and it gave the world something it had never seen before. Luxury in the sky, wide aisles, lounges, spiral staircases, and a level of comfort that made passengers feel like royalty. For the first time, long-haul travel wasn't just about getting there, it was about the journey itself. And soon, the Queen of the Skies ruled the world's airways, connecting continents, uniting cultures, and redefining what global travel meant. By the 2010s, the skies had changed. Airlines no longer wanted size, they wanted efficiency. New aircraft like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A350 could fly the same routes with only 2 engines instead of 4, burning less fuel, making less noise, and saving airlines millions every year. The 747, once the symbol of power and prestige, suddenly became too expensive to fly. On average, a 747 burns around 3,800 gallons of fuel per hour. Compare that to the 787 or a 350, which used nearly 1,000 gallons less per hour. Over a year, that difference can save airlines over $100 million in fuel alone. And in a world where sustainability became more than just a buzzword that mattered, governments tightened emissions regulations. Communities pushed back against noise pollution. Airlines began retiring their 747 fleets one after another. Today, only about 40 passenger 747s remain in service worldwide, operated by carriers like Korean Air and Air China. The Queen was fading from the passenger world, but not from the skies. While airlines said goodbye to their 747s, cargo companies were quietly doing the opposite. They saw something others had missed. The 747 wasn't just a passenger plane, it was the perfect freighter. That iconic nose, it opens upward, allowing cargo to be loaded directly through the front. That massive fuselage, it can hold up to 140 metric tons of freight. From oversized machinery to time-critical medical supplies. The 747 became the workhorse of global logistics. And during the pandemic, when shipping routes collapsed and e-commerce exploded, the Queen found herself once again at the center of the world's attention. As air cargo demand surged, Boeing 747 freighters became the backbone of global trade, delivering everything from vaccines to high-value electronics, faster than ships ever could. But the story doesn't end there, because while cargo saved the 747 from extinction, something even bigger is brewing, something that could bring her back into passenger service. And this twist, it might just redefine her legacy all over again. Would you like me to continue with Part 2, the rivalry that changed aviation forever, covering the 747 versus a 380 competition and Boeing's counterattack with the 747-8? I'll keep the same cinematic pacing and cliffhanger rhythm for maximum retention. For over half a century, one name has ruled the skies: the Boeing 747, the Queen of the Skies. A machine so magnificent, so ahead of its time, that it didn't just carry passengers, it carried dreams, ambition, and the spirit of an entire era. But just when the world thought her reign had come to an end, something unexpected happened. Something that brought her back into the spotlight. Aviation fans, once mourning her retirement, are now asking the same question. Is the Queen of the Skies making a comeback? February 2023. The air was heavy over Everett, Washington. Crowds of engineers, pilots, and aviation enthusiasts gathered outside Boeing's historic factory. The final Boeing 747, the last ever built, was about to roll out. For some, it was a moment of pride. For others, heartbreak. The engines roared one last time, echoing through the gray clouds. People held their phones high, recording what they believed was the end of an era. That aircraft, a 747-8, would soon fly away to join a cargo fleet, marking the close of a 54-year production run. The end of a legend, or so everyone thought. Because what no one realized was that this plane's story was far from over. The Queen of the Skies has always been more than an aircraft. She's a symbol of innovation, courage, and human imagination. And to understand why the world refuses to let her go, we have to go back to where it all began. The 1960s, the golden age of aviation. Airports were overflowing. Long-range jets, like the Boeing 77 and the Douglas DC-8, had changed travel forever. But they couldn't keep up with demand. Airlines were desperate for something bigger, a plane that could move twice as many people at once, travel farther, and cut ticket prices for everyone. Under immense pressure, Boeing accepted a challenge that most thought was impossible: to build a jet so massive, so powerful, that it could revolutionize the way the world moved. And so began the creation of the Boeing 747. It was an enormous gamble. The company poured billions into the project, building a new factory so large it needed its own weather system. Thousands of engineers worked day and night, driven by one vision: to make air travel accessible to the masses. When the first prototype finally rolled in 1969, it looked like something from another world. The upper deck hump, the twin aisles, the sheer size, everything about it defied imagination. When it lifted off for the first time on February 9, 1969, the world watched in awe. It wasn't just an engineering achievement, it was a statement proof that humans could dream bigger, fly higher, and go farther than ever before. Inside, airlines transformed the 747 into a palace in the sky. Bars, lounges, spiral staircases, even piano lounges on some flights. Passengers who once saw flying as a luxury now saw it as an experience. The Queen of the Skies wasn't just taking people places, she was taking them into the future. For decades, the 747 reigned supreme. She connected continents, cultures, and economies, shrinking the planet one flight at a time. From New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney, this aircraft became a global bridge. She flew heads of state, carried astronauts, and even served as Air Force One. Every takeoff was a reminder of what human ingenuity could achieve. But time moves fast, and so does technology. By the 2010s, the world had changed. Airlines were no longer obsessed with size. They were obsessed with efficiency. Twin-engine aircraft, like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and the Airbus A350, were rewriting the rules. They could fly almost as far as the 747, but with half the engines and far less fuel. The numbers didn't lie. A 747 burns nearly 3,800 gallons of fuel every hour. Compare that to the Dreamliner or a 350, roughly 2,700 gallons per hour. Over time, that difference translates to millions in savings. For airlines, the math was simple. Smaller jets meant lower costs, fewer emissions, and higher profits. And in an age where environmental responsibility became more than just good PR, the 747's four-engine design suddenly felt like a relic. Governments began enforcing stricter emission limits. Airports imposed tougher noise restrictions. Airlines, one by one, began saying goodbye to their queens. British Airways, Qantas, United, Cathay Pacific, all retired their fleets. The once dominant giant became a fading memory on the tarmac. Today, only about 40 passenger 747s remain in service worldwide, flown by airlines like Lufthansa, Korean Air, and Air China. The rest, stored, scrapped, or converted into freighters. But even as she vanished from passenger routes, the 747 found a second life, one that would make her more relevant than ever. While passengers moved on to more efficient planes, cargo carriers saw potential. They saw an aircraft with unmatched range, durability, and most importantly, space. The Queen was reborn as a freighter. Her nose, which opens upward like the mouth of a giant whale, allows her to load cargo directly through the front, something no other jet of her size can do. Inside, her cavernous fuselage can hold up to 140 metric tons of freight, from automobiles and industrial equipment to relief supplies and satellites. When the world shut down during the pandemic, air freight became humanity's lifeline. Cargo planes moved vaccines, medical supplies, and vital goods across continents when ships couldn't. And once again, the 747 became a global hero. UPS, Cargolux, Lufthansa, Cargo, they all relied on her. Boeing's foresight decades earlier to design the 747 with cargo conversion in mind paid off. The Queen was not done serving humanity today. More than 300 Boeing 747s continue to fly, most of them hauling cargo, keeping global trade moving at record speed. And as e-commerce booms and industries demand faster delivery, that demand isn't slowing down. In fact, Boeing predicts the global air cargo fleet will grow by more than 60% over the next 2 decades. It's ironic the same plane once considered obsolete in passenger service is now essential to the world economy. But the 747's story doesn't stop there, because something unexpected is happening once again. A quiet shift in the skies, with travel demand rebounding faster than predicted and global routes growing busier. Airlines are beginning to rethink the future of large aircraft. For years, they focused on smaller jets, but now, airport congestion and record passenger numbers are bringing one question back to the table. Have we retired the giants too soon? And as this discussion unfolds, one name keeps reappearing. The Boeing 747, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's practicality, or maybe, just maybe, the Queen of the Skies still has one more chapter left to write. Because while technology moves forward, emotion never really leaves the cockpit. Passengers still remember walking up the spiral staircase. Pilots still recall the feeling of commanding 400 tons of power and grace. And for aviation fans around the world, the silhouette of that hump on the horizon still stirs something deep inside, a mix of wonder and pride. The 747 is more than a plane. It's a promise that no dream is too big to fly. And yet, this isn't just about nostalgia. A new wave of developments could soon give the Queen a modern crown, one forged in innovation, sustainability, and strategy. Because Boeing has quietly been considering what few dared to imagine. Could the Queen be reborn for the next generation? We've seen it before. After all, this aircraft was born out of boldness. From the chaos of the 1960s travel boom to the challenges of the 2020s aviation reset, she has always adapted. And if history has taught us anything, it's that you can never count out the Queen of the Skies. What's coming next could change everything. Because behind the scenes, Boeing's engineers are studying new materials, next-gen engines, and sustainable fuels innovations that could bring the 747 back, not as a relic, but as a reimagined legend. And if that happens, the story of this aircraft won't just be about what it was, but what it still can be. The early 2000s were supposed to mark the end of the 747's dominance. Airbus had entered the battlefield with a weapon, unlike anything the world had ever seen, the A380, twice the passenger capacity, a full-length double-deck, state-of-the-art technology. Airbus called it the future of aviation. Boeing called it a mistake. At the time, the industry believed bigger was better. Airports were overflowing, global travel was booming, and Airbus was convinced that the only way to keep up was to build something monumental, an aircraft that could carry more than 800 passengers in one go. It would be quieter, more comfortable, and more luxurious than any plane before it. The A380 made its first flight in 2005. It was stunning, graceful, yet massive. A flying cathedral inside airlines like Emirates, Singapore Airlines, and Qantas turned it into a symbol of luxury. Showers, suites, cocktail bars. The A380 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a statement of prestige. But Boeing wasn't impressed. They'd seen this movie before. The aviation giant had already learned that size wasn't always strength. So while Airbus poured billions into making the A380 a reality, Boeing quietly doubled down on efficiency. They didn't chase size, they chased smart design. Instead of matching Airbus with another super jumbo, Boeing focused on smaller, long-range jets like the 787, Dreamliner aircraft that could connect any two cities on Earth without needing massive hubs. The Dreamliner became the symbol of a new era, leaner, greener, and more flexible. And it worked. The aviation market shifted. Passengers no longer wanted to fly through mega ports like Dubai or London Heathrow. They wanted direct routes. Point-to-point travel replaced the old hub model that the A380 depended on. Suddenly, that massive advantage size became a liability. The A380, the plane that was supposed to dethrone the Queen of the Skies, became too expensive to operate and too big for most airports. Airlines began quietly retiring them just a few years after delivery. Airbus was forced to end production entirely in 2021, and through it all, one aircraft still kept flying, the same design from 1969, the same unmistakable silhouette on the horizon. The Boeing 747 outlasted the very jet built to replace it. But this victory wasn't just poetic. It revealed something deeper, a truth about aviation itself. That innovation isn't always about being bigger or flashier. Sometimes it's about endurance. About designing something so balanced, so adaptable, that it transcends generations. The 747 became that machine, even in decline. She found ways to reinvent herself. As airlines moved away from her, governments and specialized operators moved in. NASA turned a 747 into the Sophia Observatory, a flying telescope that studied the cosmos from the edge of the stratosphere. Another became the Dreamlifter, a modified version, built to carry entire sections of Boeing 787s around the world. Each new role proved the same point. This aircraft wasn't just a product of the jet age, it defined it. Yet despite her resilience, the Queen's survival was hanging by a thread. Every year, new regulations tightened around emissions. Every year, twin-engine jets got more powerful, more efficient, more reliable. For Boeing, the question became inescapable. How do you say goodbye to something that built your empire? The answer came in 2020, when Boeing announced the final production line for the 747. It was a quiet decision, buried beneath headlines about the pandemic and supply chain chaos. But inside Boeing's Everett factory, it felt like a funeral. Engineers who'd spent their entire careers on the 747 stood in silence as the last fuselage sections rolled in. Some had been there since the first jet in 1969. They called themselves the Incredibles, the original team that built the impossible. And now, they were building it one last time. The final aircraft, a 747-8 freighter, was delivered to Atlas Air in early 2023 as it took off. Cameras from around the world captured its climb, the engines glowing in the morning mist. Pilots in nearby planes paid tribute over radio. Farewell, Queen of the Skies. For many, that was the end. But for the 747, endings have always been an illusion, because while production had stopped, the need for her had not. Around the globe, industries continued to depend on her strength. Satellite launches, oversized cargo, humanitarian missions. No aircraft could replace her combination of range, capacity, and reliability in hangars across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Retired passenger 747s are being stripped, reinforced, and reborn as freighters. Each conversion adds another decade to her life. It's a silent resurrection, happening one aircraft at a time, and now something else is stirring. The world is once again facing a transportation crisis, crowded airports, growing demand, and a planet in urgent need of sustainable solutions. Boeing's engineers, always pragmatic but quietly nostalgic, are watching closely. What if the Queen could rise again, not as a symbol of the past, but as a blueprint for the future. What if she could fly cleaner, quieter, stronger, powered not by kerosene, but by hydrogen or sustainable biofuel? What if her legendary design could merge with next-generation technology, ultralight materials, hybrid propulsion, advanced aerodynamics? It sounds impossible. But then again, so did the 747 in 1965. That's the thing about legends. They don't really die. They wait until the world needs them again. And maybe, just maybe, that moment is closer than we think. Because as Boeing faces mounting competition from Airbus, COMAC, and new electric aircraft startups, the company is under pressure to make a statement, something bold, something symbolic, something that reminds the world who still wears the crown of innovation in the sky. And deep within Boeing's archives, in the classified corridors of the Advanced Concepts Division, whispers persist of a study, a proposal for a new large aircraft built around sustainable propulsion, designed not for mass production, but for prestige. A halo project, a legend reborn. No one outside the company knows what it looks like. But if history is any guide, it will carry a familiar name. The world thought it had seen the last of her, but the Queen of the Skies has always had a way of returning, just when we think she's gone for good. The world's skies are changing again, the same way they did in the 1970s, the same way they did when the first 747 lifted off. Except this time, the race isn't just about speed, distance, or luxury. It's about survival for the planet, for the industry, and for the legacy of human flight itself. Aviation today faces a crossroads unlike any before. Every takeoff burns precious fuel. Every landing leaves a carbon footprint on a world that can no longer afford it. Governments are tightening emissions targets. Travelers are questioning every journey. And aircraft manufacturers, once competing for dominance, are now competing for redemption. Airbus has already made its move. In the shadows of Toulouse, engineers are testing hydrogen propulsion systems, clean, silent, futuristic. COMAC in China is rapidly expanding, backed by state ambition and endless funding. Even startups from California to Stockholm are unveiling electric airliners with promises to rewrite the skies. But Boeing has been quiet, too quiet. After years of turbulence from the 737 MAX crisis to production delays and public skepticism, the company is standing at a precipice. It needs a symbol, not another incremental upgrade. A revolution, something that makes the world believe again. And that's where the whispers begin. Because buried in the blueprints, in confidential presentations never shown to the public, lies a project with a name that feels both old and new. A large, long-range aircraft, not a replacement for the 747, but an evolution of her bloodline. A machine that could carry the same majesty, the same unmistakable profile. Reimagined through sustainable technology. The idea isn't fantasy. Boeing has been quietly testing the technologies needed to make it possible: adaptive wings, carbon composite fuselages, and ultra-high bypass engines designed to run on 100% sustainable aviation fuel. The concept of a next-generation Queen is no longer science fiction. It's a possibility waiting for a moment of courage, and if that moment comes, the rebirth of the Queen won't just be about engineering. It will be about memory and meaning, because even now, decades after her first flight, the 747 remains a cultural icon. Every pilot who's ever flown her describes it the same way, not as operating a machine, but as commanding a living thing. The controls have weight, the engines have rhythm, and when she rotates off the runway, there's a feeling that's impossible to describe. Like watching a mountain take flight. That feeling is why the world still isn't ready to let her go. You see it in the faces of the crowd. Whenever a 747 appears at an airshow, children pointing, veterans tearing up, cameras flashing. You hear it in the tremor of the engines as she taxis that low, thunderous heartbeat that once connected continents. You feel it in the silence that follows after she disappears into the clouds, because deep down, everyone knows this isn't just metal and rivets. It's history, frozen in motion. But the Queen's true power was never just her size or range. It was what she represented, a belief that we could do the impossible, that humanity could unite its effort, imagination, and courage into something that transcended boundaries. That belief is what Boeing needs now more than ever, and it's what could bring the Queen back. Imagine it, a new generation, 747 redesigned for the 21st century. Hydrogen-fueled hybrid engines, composite wings that flex like living creatures, an AI-assisted cockpit that learns from its pilots. A plane capable of flying farther, quieter, and cleaner than anything before it, and doing it while carrying the same unmistakable silhouette that once changed the world. A reborn legend, not competing with the Dreamliner or the A3, but sitting above them, a crown jewel, a flagship some would call it unnecessary, too expensive, too ambitious, the same things they said in 1965. But history remembers what the critics forget, that every great leap begins as a risk, and maybe that's why. In the quiet corners of Boeing's design labs, the dream still flickers, because even as engineers run simulations and investors argue about returns, there are still people at Boeing who grew up watching that humpbacked shadow streak across the sky and thought, I want to build that one day. They're the ones who remember what made the Queen special, not her capacity or her speed, but her soul. And as the industry faces an uncertain future with rising costs, stricter rules, and fierce new competitors, it might be that same soul that saves it. Because when you strip away all the numbers and technology, aviation has always been about one thing: wonder. The same wonder that made passengers press their faces to the window on their first 747 flight. The same wonder that made pilots volunteer for the night shifts just to be the ones who took her home. The same wonder that keeps people watching the skies even now, hoping to see that iconic hump break through the clouds one more time. So maybe the Queen's return won't come with fanfare or headlines. Maybe it'll begin quietly, a prototype hidden under tarps in a hangar in Seattle, a test engine running through the night, a team of engineers chasing a dream older than themselves, because that's how legends live, not in the past, but in the persistence of those who refuse to forget them. And when the day comes, when a new generation 747 rolls down the runway, powered by clean energy and guided by modern hands, the roar of her engines will echo something far greater than sound. It will echo everything she has ever stood for: innovation, endurance, and the human need to fly. Watching from below, the ones who built the first Queen will smile, because they'll know she was never really gone. She was just waiting for the skies to need her again. Night falls over the runways of Everett, Washington, the same place where the first Queen took her maiden steps into the world. The hangar stands silent now, their massive doors sealed, their walls still echoing with the ghosts of 1,000 engines. Somewhere inside, a lone light flickers above an empty assembly bay, a space once alive with sparks, laughter, and the heartbeat of creation. Outside, the wind carries the distant hum of a departing jet, smaller, quieter, efficient, the kind of aircraft the modern world prefers. But for those who remember, the silence after it passes feels hollow. Because for more than half a century, there was nothing quiet about flight. The Queen of the Skies didn't whisper through the clouds, she roared. She wasn't just built to move people from one continent to another. She was built to move the world forward. She carried families to reunions, soldiers home from war, explorers to unknown places. She carried presidents, scientists, musicians, even the space shuttle. Every great story of the late 20th century, every connection that brought humanity closer, at some point passed through the wide, welcoming doors of a Boeing 747. And now, as her numbers dwindle, her meaning only grows stronger. Somewhere in the desert, a retired queen sleeps beneath the sun. The paint is fading, the metal warm to the touch. But if you step inside, you can still smell the echoes of 1,000 journeys. Perfume, coffee, jet fuel, memory. You can almost hear the cabin chatter, the soft chime before takeoff, the thunder of the engines rising in unison. That sound was the sound of possibility, and it's not gone. It's only waiting the way all great things wait for their time to come again, because history moves in cycles. The world that once moved away from the giants is now realizing something unexpected. Efficiency isn't everything. In an era obsessed with optimization, we've lost some of the wonder, the soul of flying, the feeling that stepping on a plane was stepping into a dream. The Queen of the Skies gave people that feeling, and maybe, in the years to come, we'll need it again. The next generation of travelers won't remember the world before the internet. They won't remember when flight was an event, Not a routine, but they'll feel it. That unexplainable pull toward the horizon. That desire to go farther, to rise higher, to see the world from a window framed by clouds. And when they do, they'll be walking in the footsteps of the Queen, maybe. She won't return in the form we remember. With 4 engines and a spiral staircase and that proud hump breaking through the clouds, maybe she returned lighter, cleaner, shaped by the winds of change. But whatever form she takes, she'll carry the same spirit. The same message carved into every rivet and panel since 1969, that the sky belongs to those who dare. Boeing may never officially announce her return. There may never be another 747 by name. But somewhere, someday, a new machine will take her place. And when it does, people will look up and whisper the same thing they've whispered for decades. There she is. Because the Queen was never just one plane. She was an idea that humanity's reach is limitless, that no dream is too heavy to lift, and that even the sky can't contain what we're capable of. The Queen of the Skies isn't just part of aviation history. She is aviation history. Every smooth takeoff, every distant contrail, every passenger pressing their face to the glass at 35,000 feet. They all trace back to her dot and long after her last flight. Her shadow will still stretch across the sky, not as a reminder of what we've lost, but of what we dared to build. The sun sets over Everett now, painting the sky in gold, the same sky she ruled, the same horizon she helped us chase. And as the light fades, for just a moment, you can almost see it, the curve of her wings, the glint of her fuselage, the unmistakable silhouette that once made the whole world look up. A legend doesn't disappear, it ascends. Known as the Queen of the Skies, the 747 has captivated the world for over 5 decades. But just when we thought her time was over, something unexpected has everyone talking. So, what could possibly bring this iconic aircraft back into the spotlight? In this video, we're diving into the latest shocking twist in the 747 story. Why now, and what does the future hold for this aviation giant? Stick around. You won't want to miss what's next for this incredible plane. For aviation fans, the memory of February 20th, 23 will forever be iconic, marking the moment when the last ever Boeing 747 was delivered, officially opening the final chapter for the legendary Queen of the Skies. Let's take a moment to recap the legacy it leaves behind. From setting new standards in passenger capacity and long-haul capabilities to providing an unparalleled level of comfort, the Boeing 747 wasn't just an aircraft, it was the symbol of an era. Indeed, this aircraft leaves behind a legacy of groundbreaking innovation and iconic design. Originally conceived to meet the growing demands of global air travel, this jumbo jet was built with a vision of transporting unprecedented numbers of passengers across vast distances at speeds previously unimaginable. Boeing's revolutionary design included the now famous humpback profile, which housed an upper deck above the cockpit, offering extra passenger space and more cargo capacity. This unique design enabled this jumbo jet to set new standards in efficiency, holding more passengers and cargo than any other aircraft of its time. Beyond engineering marvels, the Queen became a symbol of luxury in the skies. Airlines quickly recognized its potential to deliver a premium travel experience with spacious cabins, plush seating, and advanced in-flight amenities that elevated air travel for those seeking comfort and sophistication. Later versions like the 747-8 Intercontinental further refined these features with larger windows, ambient lighting, and advanced entertainment, providing travelers with an unforgettable journey. As a global connector, the 747's range and capacity enabled airlines to establish long-haul routes across continents, making air travel more accessible worldwide and affordable for millions of people. The 747's impact on the aviation industry is undeniable. It revolutionized air travel, connecting people and cultures across the globe. Its legacy continues to inspire generations of engineers and pilots, and its iconic design will forever be etched in the history of aviation. With its exceptional features and capabilities, Boeing produced nearly 1,600 of the iconic 747s. However, over the past several years, many airlines have steadily phased out this aircraft, choosing to retire the aircraft from their fleets. Today, only around 400 of these jumbo jets remain in operation across the aviation industry. Even more striking is that only about 40 of these are still in passenger service with airlines like AENA Airlines, Mahan Air, Lufthansa, Korean Air, and Air China. So, what led to the decline of this once beloved aircraft that led to Boeing's decision to stop producing the 747? Before going to answer this question, if you're new here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. You'll be helping us grow the channel and be among the first to catch our new videos as they go live. Now, let's jump into the details. One of the first reasons may come from its fuel inefficiency. With 4 engines, this aircraft consumes significantly more fuel than today's twin-engine models, such as the 787 and A350, both of which are designed to deliver comparable range with greater fuel efficiency. Let's make a comparison with newer options. The 747 burns approximately 3,800 grams of fuel per hour, while the Boeing 787 and A350 use around 292,700 grams per hour, respectively. This difference is substantial. The 747 consumes about 900 to 1,100 more gallons of fuel per hour compared to these newer models. This translates to a 2,530% higher fuel consumption for the jumbo jet. It also means that an airline can save $100 million annually in fuel alone by switching to a newer, smaller, and more fuel-efficient plane instead of using 747. All those numbers about the 747's fuel consumption make it a less economically viable choice, especially on long-haul routes. The environmental impact of this aircraft has also come under scrutiny. Its higher fuel consumption translates into higher carbon dioxide emissions, which is increasingly problematic given the aviation industry's push towards sustainability and stricter environmental regulations. Additionally, the 747 generates more noise compared to newer aircraft, a concern for airports near urban areas where noise pollution affects local communities and where regulations are tightening. Competition from modern aircraft like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 has further pushed the Queen out of favor. These newer planes, with advanced engine technology and lighter, more aerodynamic designs, offer airlines substantial operational cost savings. Their fuel-efficient engines, reduced maintenance needs, and quieter operation make them a natural choice for airlines looking to optimize efficiency and reduce environmental impact. As a result, the jumbo jet, once dominant on long-haul routes, is gradually being replaced by these models that better align with both economic and environmental goals, leading to its decline in commercial passenger service. So, is the iconic Boeing 747 truly about to retire? With this question, it can be confidently said that the answer is no. The majority of 747s still flying today are for cargo, with over 300 747 freighters in operation. Remarkably, according to Boeing's 2022 World Air Cargo Forecast, the global air cargo fleet is expected to grow by more than 60% over the next 2 decades. Airlines like Lufthansa, Korean Air, and Air China have converted their older 747s into freighters. And dedicated cargo carriers like UPS and Cargolux have expanded their fleets of these aircraft freighters. This aircraft has several key features that make it ideal for cargo transportation, particularly in today's high-demand logistics environment. One of the most notable features is its nose loading door. This allows cargo to be loaded directly into the nose of the aircraft, making it easier to load oversized items and bulky shipments that may not fit in the aircraft's traditional belly hold. The ability to load and unload cargo quickly and efficiently has become crucial in ensuring smooth operations, especially when handling urgent deliveries. Another advantage of this jumbo jet is its spacious fuselage, which offers tremendous flexibility in how cargo can be arranged. The wide body and 2-level design allow the aircraft to carry large quantities of cargo, which can accommodate up to 140 metric tons of cargo in its belly and main deck, from standard containers to heavier, bulkier shipments that might require special handling. This capacity makes the jet particularly valuable for industries such as automotive, electronics, and machinery that often need to transport large, high-value items. And you might be wondering, why is air cargo becoming a growing trend? Due to several key factors that have emerged, particularly during the global CO-9 pandemic, offline shopping is blocked. This dramatically changed the way supply chains functioned, causing major disruptions in traditional shipping methods. Besides that is the surge in e-commerce like Amazon and Alibaba. Industries like healthcare and pharmaceuticals saw a significant rise in air cargo usage during the pandemic. The ability to move time-sensitive shipments across long distances without delays made air cargo even more indispensable. Furthermore, the growing demand for fast deliveries, especially for perishable goods, limited time offers, or high V-value products, has further solidified air freight as an essential logistics solution. Industries such as technology, healthcare, and perishables rely on air transport to ensure that goods reach their destinations quickly and in optimal condition, making air cargo a crucial part of the modern supply chain system. And at this point, you might be wondering whether 747 cargo planes can compete with sea freight. Let's compare them. While sea freight remains the backbone of global trade, air cargo offers distinct advantages, particularly when it comes to speed and reliability. Sea is slower and can take weeks for goods to reach their destination, especially on long-haul routes. In contrast, air cargo allows for goods to be transported across continents within a day or two, ensuring that high-value or time-sensitive goods reach their destination promptly. However, air cargo does come with higher costs than sea freight, which is why it's often reserved for high-value, urgent, or perishable goods, while sea is more economical for bulk shipments. Air cargo offers the speed and reliability that are crucial for industries where time is of the essence. As a result, air cargo is particularly popular for industries such as pharmaceuticals, electronics, and luxury goods, where delays can result in significant losses. As the Boeing 747 faces retirement from passenger service, the role of this aircraft in aviation may not be fully over, especially within the cargo sector, where its spacious fuselage and large capacity make it an ideal choice for transporting outsized goods. Many airlines have repurposed their 747 fleets for cargo use, with dedicated cargo companies seeing value in the plane's ability to carry heavy and oversized loads. This jumbo jet might also see a future in niche markets, such as private luxury transport or specialized roles like military and government operations, where its durability and range offer unique advantages. Lufthansa is the largest passenger 747 operator, maintains a fleet of 198